Hi, I'm Mason Chaudhry, the CTO of xScion Solutions, and I'm excited to have you join us today on a fantastic topic in business architecture. I'll be joined by my colleague, Ivan Blinov, who he and I are both very excited to do an in-person webinar after many months. We both are vaccinated, excited to be in the xScion offices. Today, we're going to be touching on a fantastic topic of gaining clarity in transformation. So many enterprises are spending time, money, and effort to transform their processes, their organizations, their technology stacks. They're all doing this in order to get faster, to serve their customer better, to become more efficient, to reduce costs. And in all of this, money is being spent at the federal level, money is being spent at the commercial level, large business, small business. But the interesting element, all of this expenditure, all this transformation, is most executives and managers are realizing that maybe a third of their transformations are really meeting the mark, what they set out to do. And in all of this, you as a practitioner, as a manager, as an executive know that you've got to have a good understanding of the change that you're embarking upon with your stakeholders, your process. If you're moving from data centers to the cloud, if you're changing your policy, if you're making your teams more agile, if your execution methods now involve automation, in all of this, transparency really helps. But there's disconnects. We see disconnects with our customers every day. They talk about the evolving customer need, the changes in requirements, the inability to see across silos in their enterprises, the inability to see how technology might be redundant, where there might be gaps in capabilities. There might be fragmented experiences internally on your teams, or they might actually exist with your customers. And a lot of times, their low rate of success, you're not meeting your timelines. So to tackle this, Ivan, who has worked both in the commercial and federal space, has served customers large and small, who brings a wealth of experience on how to move that needle in transformation, is going to walk us through a topic of business architecture. We're going to align business architecture not only to concepts that you might be using today or familiar with, including enterprise architecture, looking at your applications, digital transformation, agility, but we're also going to tie it to a real world topic. So with that said, I'm going to kick us off by mentioning that business architecture, by definition, is meant to help you understand your assets, your investments, give you clarity on where all these things touch. You're supposed to have the documentation that drives your decisions. So Ivan, that is textbook. Now tell us your understanding and feel on business architecture.
Thank you, Mason. I think it's business architecture, it's subject. It's everyone. It's have a lot of questions about, and for two reasons. Number one, it's this been around about many years, but nobody called what exactly business architecture. And also, we have changing environment. We have high demand for new services from customers. In this case, we dealing with environment that's changing. It's every day. It's maybe in every hour. In this case, you need to have efficient framework to build this type of transparency from end to end, from request from customer in understanding strategy of organization to delivery and execution. This is exactly what business architecture about it, helping to connect a strategy to execution.
Strategy to execution, and you're right. Day to day, month by month, tech stacks and capabilities are changing. Organizations are saying, hey, the capabilities we needed in 2020 pre-pandemic are vastly different than what we need today. So with that said, help us understand what the key benefits of business architecture are at every level.
Business architecture, it's able to bring simplicity, and how it can happen. It's first of all, we're creating blueprints of a business, and one of core benefits of this, it's you're able to have more quicker, more efficient solution because your strategy aligned to execution, and also you're able to reduce cost in risk. It's because you're able to foresee all these problems before they're coming, and especially regulatory space, you have a lot of changes happening, and this is where you're getting this agility using business architecture. And increasing quality. This is where each organization is looking for. Deliver product to customers. It's efficient products in efficient solutions. I think this is three benefits what business architecture can deliver, and we can look on details how it's happening.
So Ivan, my understanding of how organizations should best use business architecture is look at it with enterprise architecture. These are not divergent concepts, not divergent practices, but one's allowing you to look at the capability of your enterprise as you look at your tech stack. Is that how you read it?
Yeah, it's first of all, business architecture is part of enterprise architecture.
Okay.
And it's just connection between IT, data, and security with business. And in this case, it's nothing new, but we have to well define this to understand what is will be benefits of using business architecture, part of enterprise architecture.
Got it. So the first topic I'd like to bring to our listeners is what is that secret sauce that allows you to bridge the gap between a strategy and the execution? A lot of enterprises are not only undergoing a migration from mode 1 ways of working, as Gartner would explain it, to mode 2. You're going from large projects, you're going to agile, nimble projects. You're moving away from monolithic architectures. You're going towards microservice, modular setups. In all of this, there is risk. You could have technical debt. You could have gaps. You could have overlapping or redundant capabilities. Can you help us walk through the actual methods, documents, and best practices that you leverage to map that disconnect?
Yeah. From best practice perspective, it's three main problems for any organization, any enterprise. Number one, it's we have it's applications. Application is really helping business to move forward and automate a lot of things. But we're dealing with new application, new platform. We're dealing with legacy. In this case, managing application portfolio in new way, it's the most efficient way to move organization to the next level. And second best practice, it's redefine your solution architecture, because you have to deliver a solution that's aligned to business needs. As soon as you have this in mind, your solution is really connected to all part of business, and they connected to technology and business architecture. It's bridge, it's helping to deliver more efficient solutions. And third piece, it's you want to measure success. Or if you have something it's went off, you're able to see what exactly are using performance measure in indicators, because this feedback is giving you a real-time perspective if you're moving in the right direction. By combining all these three things, you're able to establish efficient enterprise and deliver the best solution to your customers.
And that makes sense. Before we jump into some of the examples, what I'm hearing from you is it's good to have the technology, vet it, look at your applications. It's good to make sure that they're meeting the solutions. Are they bringing the solution to the table that your tech stack's there for? And then is that solution actually delivering? And that's where the KPIs and OKRs come in.
Here we go. Yeah.
Wonderful. So bring it all together then. The three, the tech, the solution, making sure it works. Give us a view on an enterprise.
We just mentioned in business architecture, part of enterprise architecture.
Correct.
But what exactly enterprise architecture? A different perspective where we have application architecture, data architecture, and technology. All together, it's helping to deliver a solution to customers through the solution architecture. But all this together need to be connected through the business architecture to business view. In this case, business architecture is responsible for business view. We have business automation and service view. This is where we have application architecture. We have information and data perspective. This is where we have data architecture. And we have a way to deliver this solution in, we have portfolio of this solution, this solution architecture. And underlying capabilities is provided by technology. By combining all together and keeping this aligned, this is only way how your enterprise can work in more efficient way and make sure your solution, your technology, it's aligned to your business needs in business objectives.
So it's giving you that umbrella view. At least that's my takeaway.
Yeah.
And that umbrella view is for all stakeholders. I mean, is there value to a practitioner to understand if they're working in the data or technical application domain where their work falls or what the value stream may be?
Yeah, it's this is exactly a purpose for business architecture, because it's really giving you this map. It's where you are if you're delivering specific service, part of your application. You know what it's for, how business is going to use this, and which strategic objectives you're supporting.
So it's funny you say maps. We would love to learn from you. I know a lot of our listeners are using these maps today. There are a lot of maps out there, but the reality is business architecture provides that transparency. I think we said that in the beginning. Ivan, help us understand how you go from capabilities and information, data flow, value. How does it tie together? How does it come into an enterprise architecture, and what's the value to the end user?
And remember, I mentioned it's application architecture is the key for modern organization, because technically each application, its set of capabilities, it's automated in making life for business user it's easy. But to do this the right way, you have to establish few mapping. And business architecture, it's bringing set of mappings. It's required. It's capability mapping. It mostly defining what your business is doing. Be able to translate these capabilities to set of information map, information concept, and defining underlying information supporting these capabilities. And you have to deliver value to your customers. In this case, value map, it's defining value streams, it's delivering this value to customer. And we have, by cross-mapping value stream to capabilities in an information map, we're able to enable and execute this through the business processes, through the data architecture. And altogether, it's really delivering set of application. It's serving this purpose to help business to deliver value to customers. And technology, we can have software as service, it's platform as service, or infrastructure as service. Altogether, it's just adding set of capabilities to business. And by recognizing this, each and everyone is able to see this transparency in organization, and be able to run impact analysis, understand what exactly changes required to achieve these objectives what business defined.
So let me ask you a question then. So what I'm hearing from you is if you create that transparent view through a capability map, you are allowing people who might be in their own silo, their own value stream, wherever they are in the enterprise, to understand the impact of certain technology, especially as organizations leverage more SaaS, PaaS, as you mentioned. Yeah. Is this correct?
Absolutely. It's transparency, it's number one. Simplicity, it's number two. And also it's we have business perspective, what is missing in technology, because you want to put everything in context. You want to run specific business scenarios. This is exactly where business architecture it's able to deliver this perspective to technology and enterprise architecture and makes this more efficient.
And to me, as an Agilist, that's very important, because in Agile principles, you talk about the big picture, the mission, and if business architecture can help drive that big picture and big mission, it ties into Agile principles.
Exactly. It's agility, one of core benefits of enterprise architecture, because you have transparency, you're ready for changes. I think this is probably the most important thing. It's we have changes happening every day, but you want to make sure your framework it's adapted to these changes, and you're able to deliver solutions and products and services to your customers. It's aligned to requests that came yesterday.
Okay, so then let's take it up one level. So say we have management executives listening into this webinar. In essence, they're making investments and they want to understand, hey, I'm bringing a new solution into my enterprise. My teams have said, if we invest certain amounts of money, those technology, those process change investments will lead to some sort of ROI. Can you please walk us through how you go from organization and capabilities to an assessment where an executive or manager can say, hey, this particular solution is bringing us the ROI that we expected, that 66% we saw in the beginning that people are not achieving?
Solution architecture, probably most critical piece of any organization at delivering product to customers, because you want to provide business solution right on the target and based on customer needs. How to make sure your solution it's really up to date and your solution it's delivering exactly what customer requested. It's one way to do this. You have to look at an organization map. You have to understand ownership of all capabilities of the organization own, and you have to understand information. How is this type of information concept? How is this tied to value map? And when we're looking all this together, we have to keep in mind it's everything driven by strategy. This is the core benefit of business architecture. It's aligning strategy to execution. By understanding how this strategy will be translated to set of objective and understand what impact it will be on existing capabilities in value streams in information, architect, we're talking about all architect, data architect, solution architect, and technology specialist, all together is able to see this impact. And this is impact on processes, it impact to stakeholders, and to measure this price impact and efficiency, you have to connect all the dots. And this is where you have solution architecture. It's really changing meaning. It's not only deliver solution based on technology, but deliver solution based on business input. And this is by connecting requirements to business objective and understand like what specific solution deliver which piece of business request and in overall strategy changes. This is exactly where we have business architecture value.
Gotcha. So I'm gonna use an example, and you keep me honest here. If I'm trying to take not me personally, but if my team, our organization is saying, going into the cloud would make us more nimble. Going into the cloud would allow us to serve more customers. Going into the cloud would allow us to have less downtime. This is a strategy. What I'm hearing from you is if you take that type of a strategy and you want to execute against it, you've got to understand who's impacted in your organization, what capabilities will come to play. You have to understand what data flow is going to be needed, what those integrations are, what the value streams are going to be towards that, which stakeholders are impacted, where there's gaps, and then get an understanding of if that solution will really bring us what we're thinking in our strategy. Is this correct?
Yeah, it's by changing underlying capabilities, by moving on cloud, we not changing business capabilities. They've been defined once, and the organization is able to use this many times, but you're able to trace this back and just measure impact.
Wonderful. All right, so we talked APM, we talked solution, we're talking about the fact that you want to be able to assess if you're getting value. I used to use that cloud example. Transparency and a focus on value. I don't care what kind of business you're running. You could be running a restaurant, you could be running AWS. At the end of the day, you're focused on transparency and value. So in that, help us understand in businesses that drive value from things outside of tech, if they're looking at policy, regulation, compliance, how can some of these maps that business architects build aid them?
Business architecture is not only defining these domains, but it's establishing a relationship between these domains. And this is probably the most important thing with this framework, because you have different mapping, but you have to understand how all these maps are connected. In general, enterprise architecture, it's defining what organization delivering to customers, but business architecture, it's giving this laser focus vision for organization and make sure it's a solution, it's aligned to this vision. But way how it can be connected, we're looking on individual domains. Like we have strategy, we have stakeholders, we have value streams. And if you have, for example, policy changing every quarter, it's every, for regulatory organizations, they issue new regulation every month.
Absolutely.
And by identifying connection between policy and other business architecture domains and underlying technology and our capabilities, what implemented through the application portfolio, we're able to trace it back and see how the specific policy impact organization and underlying technology.
Can it help in an audit function?
Yeah, this is exactly what happened. You want to be prepared for this audit. You don't need to be caught by surprise, like, oh, I didn't know this. My tech not supporting this. This is exactly vision. It's added by business architecture. You're ready for the changes. You really up to date, and you deliver customers exactly what they need, and you comply with regulatory requirements.
And that makes a lot of sense. So now, I mentioned agility earlier. A lot of teams are moving away from siloed or even matrix organizations, and they're saying, you know what, we're going to have either set agile teams, we're going to have product teams, we're going to work on value streams. There's a lot of change, Ivan, and a lot of organizations are trying to figure out not just how teams operate, but what's the impact, who has ownership. Help us understand how business architecture can create transparency in an agile move, especially using stakeholder maps.
It's 4 key domains for business architecture. We have capability, value streams, organization, and we have information. Stakeholder is not core domain, but you're absolutely correct. By defining ownership for capabilities, which business unit, which specific department owns this capability, you're able to establish communication. If you have these changes coming, if you know this impact, because all these business units, they're driving initiatives, and they have to align all these projects, programs to deliver value. It's aligned to business needs. And by establishing this ownership, you're able to have someone responsible and accountable. And you have to understand who is informing consult. And business architecture, it's adding the stakeholders map in new context. It's not only just org chart. This is really ownership of capabilities, and also its specific responsibility as triggering stakeholder in specific stage of value stream.
Okay, so just to reiterate then, the value comes from defining the capability, the ownership, especially if there's overlapping capabilities or if you're migrating from one way of working to another. Is this right?
Exactly. It's most organization it's working in silo, and defining ownership, you're able to make sure these stakeholders collaborate and they agree about definition of these capabilities, and they can be defined once and used many times in the organization.
Okay. All right, we're going to put you to the test.
Okay.
I'd like a real world example. Everything's great in theory. I know that you've worked not only in healthcare, you've worked in the financial domain. As I mentioned at the beginning of this webinar, you've also done public sector. In all of these businesses, there's a common thread. There's the audit function. And the audit function is, especially in compliance and regulatory businesses, it's not only essential, but it's data driven. You see a lot of audit function even becoming agile in a lot of ways. They want to be able to quickly document, quickly move on. If you could help us understand the impact of business architecture, not just for audit, but also in the financial space, I think that'd be a great start.
Yeah, I think we have to start from defining why we have too many regulatory agencies, and just look at this from perspective of protection of public. We have financial market. We want to make sure all players it's playing in by rules, and it's fair play on the market. And also, it's we looking on financial stability. We don't want to just have someone coming on the market and destroy a whole market. By defining this regulation, it's, we have agency. It's across the board. It's specifically for US. It's like for financial market as SEC, FINRA, and other agencies, PCB. And all these regulators, it's keeping in mind 2 things. It's one, it makes sure all players, and I'm talking about public companies, and I'm talking about auditors, they're playing and using fair rules. And second, we have public protected in financial assets protected. Altogether, it's really defining way how these regulators perform inspection.
Yeah.
And how audit companies, firms supposed to provide audit according to standard.
So standards mean you need transparency. So help us understand how you do that in the audit function.
Okay, we're talking about business architecture. We're talking about value delivered to all customers. In this case, we have three distinguished value streams it defined. One is conduct audit. This is exactly what financial regulator usually doing. It's they able to provide this set of steps required to perform audit and get inspection or audit report. But for companies being audited, under audit, they have to be ready for this. And we talk about this. It's a lot of changes happening in regulatory space. And to do this, each organization supposed to, number one, establish this policy. And this policy need to be compliant with this regulation in standards. It's defined by regulatory agencies. In this case, two set of value streams. One is establish policy and ensure policy compliance. It's helping the organization to be compliant, and conduct audit value stream, helping regulatory organizations to perform this audit more efficiently.
Okay, so you take BA principles, you help set up a value stream. And what I'm hearing here is that in a heavily regulated space or an audit space, the value streams and the documentation creates that transparency. Is this internal audit and external? Is it applicable to both?
Exactly. This is, if you look on ensure policy compliance, this is internal. Okay. If you have conduct audit, this is external.
So Ivan, if you're not using BA principles in audit, what's your disadvantage?
You can have 1,000 different processes. It's on the regulatory side and on the specific public company side. And one thing, if you don't know how the specific regulation change, its impact on these processes. And business architecture, it's by establishing these value streams and, more importantly, connection each capability what organization has to this value stream, understanding ownership provided through the stakeholder map and organization map, you're able to connect all these dots. And this is exactly where the business architecture. You have blueprints defining your business, and you're able to use this blueprint to review any changes coming from outside world and be ready for this.
That's great. So you get the tools to, you don't have to be reactive. You're kind of proactive in changes that come. And what you're mentioning here is there are a lot of changes that come down the policy path, and you're able to react in a planned manner.
Exactly. It's considered any regulation agency as additional set of drivers for organization besides strategy and the vision. And each company needs to be compliant to keep their license to run their business. And this is one of prerequisites to be successful and be more efficient.
Got it. Okay. So we're going to switch gears. A lot of you that might be listening are looking at designing, building, implementing, or using new technology that promises to be low code, to be automated, to bring in robotic process automation. And all of that, you're trying to figure out what capabilities can I replace or augment with automation. And so, Ivan, this is occurring in small and large business where organizations are saying, wow, there's some great automation tech when you look at Salesforce and Pega and others. And so in that, they're saying, all right, I want to take advantage of this. I want to remove a lot of the manual process in my organization. I want to remove a lot of the gating. Right now, it might take a dozen approvals to get something through the door. How can we automate not only our process and our development, but how can we automate a lot of the manual elements? You and I both have worked in healthcare. We worked in healthcare payers. You look at claims processing, for example, very manual. They're looking to implement these tools to automate that claims processing. So my questions to you are, how can business architecture help prepare an enterprise to create use cases for these tools and actually get value out of the tooling?
Really a great question, because if you look at any tool, it doesn't matter. We're talking about platform, we're talking about specific applications. It's coming with a set of capabilities, it's automated. And next step, you want to actually customize this tool, make sure it's delivering value for your organization. And this step, usually everyone just kind of pushing this forward, and they buying tool, they invest in this tool, but they're not able to customize this tool. And business architecture is filling this gap because you're able to understand your organization, your business through the set of capabilities value streams, and you're able to trace it back to capabilities provided by tool, identify gaps, and provide specific customization for your organization to make sure your customer getting value of your business delivering. Make sure it's any regulatory changes, it's can be translated to specific solution. It's helping business to deliver this value to business. And stable organization aligned to strategy and regulatory changes. I think this every business doing well.
All right, so then help me out here. Some of our customers and some of the people I've seen in the industry, they tend to buy the technology and then try to figure out the use case. The other way around.
Yeah.
So my understanding of business architecture is it helps you find the gaps in your capability. So in essence, you're saying, you know what, we might intake claims in a health payer easily, but when those claims come in, we're very manual on what those adjudication steps are. So it's actually saying there's a gap in our capability. So it actually creates the use case by looking at this. Help us understand where organizations might fail if they buy the tech without understanding how the use case should come around.
You just indicated like value stream. This is way how value been delivered, and by defining this value stream and aligning the value stream to specific scenario, you not only making this helpful for organization to deliver these values for the value stream, but you actually able to make this value stream better and just identify specific needs for capabilities. And this is way how you able to work with technology one side and work with business needs from other side. And by understanding these needs from your customers and building these business cases, business scenarios, you're able to actually avoid any impacts, because if you not delivering customer what they need, they're usually living to your competitors.
All right, so a bonus question. Business model. A lot of organizations want a business model and understand their architecture before they actually bring in a systems integrator or a technology vendor like one of those listed here. What's your thoughts on getting business modeling in the door, getting your folks to understand how that operates and getting that level of business modeling in before you go down this path?
It's usually two parts of business. It's one, it's operational. This is where we're talking about specific business processes. We want to be more efficient, and this is most organizations focus on this. But if you have business business model not really work, doesn't matter how you're efficient in operations. If a customer not buying product what you're producing, doesn't matter how perfect this product. Probably it's some changes in business model required. And business architecture helping to align all these blueprints, what we just discussed, is business model. And we just had this tough time for pandemic. Most organizations just going to be out of business for pretty important reason. It's their models, business models need to be changed to adjust to new environment. And business architecture, it's not only helping to deliver optimal solution, but it's also helping to look on business model and align this business model with capabilities for what you need. By bringing new model, you need new capabilities. Business architecture, it's able to identify which capabilities you need to support the model.
And what I'm hearing from you to kind of wrap this up is, as changes come down the pike for most organizations, your operating model, your business model will change. You look at just health payers, the way information is sent in, the way claims are sent in, it's going to change, and you have to change your business model so that you can align then your capabilities and your tech. Is that right?
Exactly.
Okay, wonderful. So today you kind of, to summarize what we've heard, is create greater transparency by leveraging principles of business architecture that align to enterprise architecture. You do this, you will better understand the overlapping nature of your people, your process, your technology, your policy. You look at your capabilities, you find the gaps, and you make better decisions. And if you're looking at serving your customers, you can serve your customers better by making changes to your business model as needed. Is this right?
Absolutely.
All right, wonderful. So I know you shared some documents today. And if those listening are interested in some of the maps that Ivan shared, feel free to reach out to me. I'm Mason Chaudhry. Again, my email is on the screen. Ivan and I are both available to you, and we can send information to Ivan if you've got additional questions. While we did touch some of these topics on the surface, the reality is we've got a lot of great information in our business process management practice on this mapping, and we'd love to share it with you. Ivan, I want to thank you for touching on this topic, and I look forward to us maybe talking about business models next time. Is that fair?
Sounds good.
All right. Thank you again.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.